Hello, I'm Lauren with IndoorGardening.com, and today let's talk about watering your plants. Water is absolutely crucial for plants. Everybody needs to water plants. Watering is the #1 way plants die. They either die from the lack of water, or they die from too much water, or they die from a combination of the two, which is really ironic because the weather outside does whatever it wants, when it wants. It rains, it doesn't rain, and plants seem to thrive just fine. But when we have plants indoors, it tends to be a little bit more finicky and a little bit more difficult to try to figure it out and keep our plants alive. Okay, so let's talk about the different ways that you can water plants. You always see in the movies and in the videos just people taking a water can and they're just kind of dumping water on top of the plant, maybe spreading it around, or they'll take a hose and just kind of spray everything, and that's how you water a plant. It's a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more complicated than that. When you are watering a plant with a watering can, you want to go under the foliage and around the base of the plant, so that way the soil or the substrate underneath is fully saturated. If you miss parts of the pot, there will be little pockets that will not get that water, will not get that moisture, and those roots will end up drying out and they will end up dying off, and it will impact your plant negatively. Majority of cases, this is where you'll see yellowing leaves. You'll have small portions of the plant looking very sad and droopy, like it's not getting water, while the other portion of the pot will be getting water. So going around in a circular motion under the foliage is very important. You can also do bottom watering, which is when you take your plant and you place it in a bowl or a tub full of water. You can also have fertilizer mixed in. If you have like a liquid fertilizer mixed in there, that's perfectly fine. But what this is going to do is have the substrate soak up the water, and the roots will soak up the water, and it will make sure that the entire pot is evenly moist. This is a fantastic way to rehydrate your plants, especially if the soil is what's known as hydrophobic, where the soil is hard to touch and it's pulled away from the pot since rock solid. If your soil is hydrophobic and you water it from the top with your watering can like we talked about earlier, then it's not going to actually soak up any of that water. It will just kind of run off of the sides and it will bounce off. It will repel the water essentially. If you have hydrophobic soil, or you have a tendency to let your plants overly dry out, then the bottom watering method is going to work better for you in the long run. Another thing to keep in mind if you are bottom watering is that you want to flush your plants out. Basically what that means is you want to go and run it under tap water or some type of hose and just kind of top water it, so that everything that has been sitting in there, everything that's been pulled up, the minerals and whatnot that have pulled up from that water might have built up in the soil. You want to do this about once a month, just kind of flush it and have that water go through and trickle through and push out all of the excess that your plant doesn't need. Also, when you have indoor plants, it's important to not spray all of the foliage. The reason for that being is we don't have any air circulation inside our homes. We don't have anything to blow the water drops off of these plants, so a lot of times it will sit there. Whatever bacteria is in the water is going to get on the leaf. This can cause rot, mold, mildew. It can cause fungal and bacterial infections. It can have a long-term detrimental effect on your plant, which is why we also don't recommend just misting your plants. Misting your plants doesn't count as a watering technique either. That's not really a way to water a plant. You can go and mist the side of a terrarium, and that will kind of be counting as watering a plant. But if you have an actual plant in a pot just sitting out on your table or your shelves, you don't want to just run up and mist it and then just leave that on there. Unless you live in a very hot environment where the water is going to evaporate very quickly, or you have fans blowing like in a greenhouse, then this will get the water drops off and it will create a good healthy environment that our plants can thrive in. A couple of safety tips to keep in mind when you are watering your plants. If you are going to put your plants together all in one same tray or one same area in order to water them, you want to make sure that they are not going to be sharing whatever pests they have, so make sure your plants are pest free. Another thing to keep in mind is that if one plant has root rot and you put it in with a whole bunch of other plants in a tub, they could end up sharing the root rot. Some plants will be perfectly fine and be able to fight it off, but if you have a weaker plant with a lot of damage, then that plant could end up getting root rot like your first plant as well. So you just want to kind of keep that in mind, be checking your plants and keeping an eye on them while you're watering them. Specifically, the pest that you need to worry about when you are bottom watering your plants is root mealies. Root mealies will spread, same with fungus gnats, they will spread from one plant to another. Those eggs will come out and they will float up and they will go into the other plants when they're being soaked up and absorbed. And granted, it may not be very much, it may just be one or two, but if it is left untreated and unnoticed for long periods of time, there can be an entire collection that can be taken down. So it's pretty unfortunate. I've seen it happen where multiple plants have been taken down by the same type of pest that was shared through water. So if you are bottom watering your plants, make sure you're changing out that water regularly. If you are watering your plants with water that has been sitting around for long periods of time, there could be bugs, larvae, bacteria built up in that. So you want to try not to water your plants with stagnant water as well, just to kind of prevent those issues. Watering plants can seem really, really complicated, and it can seem really, really simple depending on from where you're looking at it. It's really not super intricate. It's just all about reading your plant's cues, and hopefully this gave you some answers as to how your plant works and why it does what it does, so that you can have a healthier plant life. Make sure you check out indoorgardening.com while you wait for our next video. There's lots of information there for you. We're always happy to help. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!